Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Monday, August 25th, 2025. That's 225s in a row. Of course, time to go buy a lottery ticket. Doubly so for me today. It's my birthday. And it's Armando's birthday. And tomorrow's Scott's birthday, right? So, it's birthday mania here at KITM, except Armando isn't here. Scott isn't here per se, but he's tomorrow anyway. Greg Dworkin, whose birthday it isn't, will also be here. I don't know, for some reason. We have some news to catch up on. We might as well just pretend everybody gets a birthday today. And any number of things can happen on your birthday, including, I guess, being fired from federal employment, or being arrested on the street, or shipped to Guantanamo, or possibly Uganda. Lots of things to catch up on that happened over the weekend. Trump mostly spent his time golfing out my way. I will say this, for a presidential golfer who goes so frequently and goes so close to my own house to go golfing, it's relatively unobtrusive. Although I understand he did get the finger from some passersby yesterday. And I don't know why that isn't reported generally every time. I'm pretty sure he gets the finger wherever he goes. But, of course, it has happened famously here in Loudoun County on his way to his golf course. I don't think I want to call anybody out because the last person that got called out for it got fired from their job, but then found new employment elsewhere and was elected to the local county government and is still in county government to this very day and representing that very district as well. So I suppose it's not the worst of luck. But I happened to notice that the reporting was that there were people waving and then at least one person giving the middle finger. Like, I thought that was a given at this point, but it's well worth reporting, I suppose. Lots of other fun things happening over the weekend, some of them not in Washington, D.C., but strangely, troops from around the country, red states around the country, National Guard troops continue to try to find something to do with their days in Washington, D.C. as they patrol around and around in circles where there's nothing going on and find themselves mostly standing nearby while Metropolitan Police and federal law enforcement officials, very often spend their days tackling Uber Eats delivery drivers off of their mopeds in case they might, be in violation of some other law somewhere, and they'll hold them for an hour or so, beat them up a little bit, try and figure out whether or not they're illegal immigrants, and if not, tell them, well, your taillight is broken. We broke it when we tackled you off your moped, but whatever. Now you're going in, and the National Guard troops from Ohio, West Virginia, Louisiana, Missouri, South Carolina apparently all just stand around and watch this. Meanwhile, by the way, South Carolina is flooded, as it happens, from the offshore effects of one of the passing hurricanes. Charleston inundated with flood surge and like 4 to 5 inches of rain in an hour. I bet they'd like to have those National Guard troops back, but the governor there promises, oh no, we've got plenty. Might be nice to have an extra 200 or so instead of isolating them up in Washington, D.C., but you know what patriotism demands. So, all right, well, let's see. Greg Dworkin has a Raft O Stories, you might say, and they're all prepared and standing by. We need to have we'll try some of the fun new suggestions of fanfares, because it's always nice to have a fanfare. We'll go corporate this time, I think. Beautiful. Ooh, some drums. They're getting longer, these fanfares, I think. Brought to you by the producers of this show, I guess, but also apparently Universal Pictures. Good morning, Greg Dworkin. How are you?
Good morning. I was going to ask you whether or not that comes with popcorn.
Just the smell of it. We spray it around, and then you just give us $18 and call it even.
Right. I was listening to my local public radio station, and they often have a show where they just play movie themes. And it's a themed movie theme show, maybe about dinosaurs or about crime or about a particular producer or a a particular movie composer.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes they throw in, 1950s and 1960s ads with it. So I was listening to one which was just extolling the value of pickles, which you could get a plump pickle at your concession stand,
Could you at the
plump
movies?
Pickle, a nickel a shtickle, just a nickel for a piece, but those are the old days.
Yeah.
Then it got to be a quarter an order, and then, it's too expensive.
All right. Well, yeah, prices. Inflation's a story. I don't know.
Yeah, inflation is a story. We'll talk about that. Okay. Actually, I have a story about that.
See? All right. Now, you don't have to change the order of your stories just to do that. There'll be more inflation if you wait, actually. But either way, which direction do you want to go?
I think we're going to talk about potato chips.
Okay. Also Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you.
Always talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Well,
sure.
Let's start with Carl Quintanilla, who's a economics reporter, since we're doing inflation. U.S. consumers with the highest credit scores are starting to fall behind in debt repayments. Credit scoring company Vantage Score said in a report published Monday in a sign Americans' financial health may be deteriorating more broadly. So those rate cuts are coming because the economy's in trouble.
Yeah.
Late payments over 90 days are up 109% year over year. I'd tell you more, but, it's a subscription site. So
it'll cost you. Yeah, and the price of it is going up.
Yeah, absolutely. But actually what I want to start with is potato chips.
Yum. Can't be just one, though. Has to be several.
No, and in fact, not just any old potato chip. It's got to be hers sour cream and onion chips.
This is
and
a
that
huge
means we're talking about
them.
the New York City mayor race.
Yeah, they couldn't have paid for. Oh, maybe they did pay for.
Maybe they did pay for.
I think about it. Yeah, but what publicity they've gotten? It should be a downer publicity, but one guy is turning all the scandal frowns upside down.
So just for background.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a online publication called The City, for those of you who missed this. And one of Eric Adams' cronies tried to bribe a city reporter.
Yes.
By sticking an envelope of small change, like $120 or so.
I am baffled by
into a Hers sour cream and onion bag and insisting the reporter take the bag. The reporter had no interest in it, but, to be nice, she took the bag, opened the bag of chips, and looked inside. There was the money. She called the cops and got reported. That person got fired from the campaign. But after the story broke out, the New York Times then reported that for the past month, Adams people have been seeing handing out money in similar circumstances, which the New York Times sat on for some reason. I don't know why, but only reported it after the city broke that. That scoop.
It wasn't news that was fit to print, I guess.
Something like that. So naturally, the city started fundraising over it. They had a one-day fundraiser. We're the people who were bribed. Everybody chip in. Get it?
I see. Yeah, that's fun. And you don't have to enclose your check in a bag of chips or anything, but I guess, that's interesting. That's an interesting hook for fundraising. Somebody was trying to give us $100 the other day. How about you? Why aren't you
exactly.
trying to do this?
So everything is about Eric Adams and the fact that
that's
he's
amazing.
Like a distant force.
He's the only reason he's in the race is because he's bribing people, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. He's getting 9-10% in the polls, and a good day he gets double figures. Okay, so then the leading candidate for mayor is Zohran Mamdani.
Yes.
And Saturday night on social media, of course, he announces he's having a scavenger. That's ZCAVEN. He's having a scavenger
hunt.
That's
interesting. Okay.
On Sunday.
Z. Yeah.
And expects 500 people to show up. Thousands show up. And Spectrum's New York One covered this in video, and I wonder if you could play it for us.
Oh, yes.
Because,
I can.
For those of you who are keeping score, I did warn David I had a video just like 3 minutes ago, so I don't know if he's had a chance to set it up.
I was going to say, what? I'm caught by surprise. All right. Here it is, the video of
Here's my live reaction to this video.
Okay, right. I've never seen this before. Actually, I haven't. Oh, you know
Slam
what?
that like button, and don't
so
forget
far
to
I've
subscribe.
clicked it, and it says sign in or ask later. I'm going to sign in later. Okay, here we go. Finally, they'll give us.
This is what the line looked like at the final stop of Zohran Mamdani's summer scavenger hunt.
Yes.
The scavenger hunt was officially announced on social media Saturday night.
We are doing a scavenger hunt across New York City tomorrow, Sunday, August 24th,
Well, that's
starting
yesterday.
at 2 p.m.
Ha! What a liar! Okay, just kidding. This was yesterday.
The first clue was dropped at 11 a.m. Sunday
But,
morning.
Stop the video for a minute.
Okay.
So when Mamdani is sitting and announcing the video,
Yes.
of course,
Oh, right.
it's a New
I'm
York
sorry.
City
I'll back
street scene,
Yes.
but he's holding a bag of hers sour cream and onion, or
Yes.
whatever potato chips, whatever
I
that
hope.
flavor is.
I hope it was sour cream and onion. Yes, and you were mentioning I saw that announcement video, and there was and he's making all sorts of cute puns and sly references. What was it?
Yeah, he says, "Listen, we have something to hide. In fact, we have a lot of things to hide. We're doing a scavenger hunt. So,
yeah,
keep playing the video." But,
I thought that was a cute segue. But okay, yeah.
Potato chips, Eric Adams, corrupt. But go ahead.
Right. Okay. So
City tomorrow, Sunday, August 24th, starting at 2 p.m.
The first clue was dropped at 11 a.m. Sunday morning.
Meet us in front of the Gilded Age Hall where that mayor spent a lot of his time.
Ooh, Gilded Age, very important and popular television show.
Tammany Hall.
Yep. That's the Gilded Age Hall. It's not called Gilded Age Hall. Right. So very funny.
This thing is not subtle, but as you go through some of the video, and you don't have to play it all. It's a 3-minute video, but I think you're getting the gist of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
As one very astute observer pointed out, the major difference between Mamdani and the other mooks who were running is that Mamdani clearly knows, understands, and loves this city.
Yes.
The other guys spend their careers, like Curtis Lewa, or their campaigns, like Andrew Cuomo, telling us what a rat-infested hellhole this is, and you should hate it. Say that. And Mamdani says, I love this city, and everywhere we go, whether it's potato chips or chai tea, I find something to eat. I love this place.
Yeah, and that's a huge vibe difference in them. I mean, the other candidates in most cases don't live in the city that they're trying to be mayor of it. One of them, was successfully somehow elected mayor despite the fact that he didn't live in it. But yeah, to actually enjoy and revel in and be happy and proud of living in the city, usually, prerequisite for mayors of that city. But I don't know, New York, it's weird.
Right.
And not a lot of people would have the guts to do their kickoff thing in front of Tammany Hall, but everybody would wink slyly about that, except Mamdani is so upfront about things. And we're having a scavenger hunt. And by the way, here's the bribe thing. Let's start off right in their backyard. And
let's just make it clear here. There's 7 stops along the route.
Yeah.
I don't know what they all are, but I know what the last one was.
Wow, okay.
He winds up in Queens at a place to eat. The name of the place that he stopped at?
Yeah.
The Little Flower Cafe.
Oh, very nice. Sweet.
You know who the Little Flower is?
I don't think I know.
That's Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I didn't know that.
Tammany Hall, corruption,
sure,
reform. You get the message here?
No.
Everything is really thought out, and it's there if you know the city.
Flower. Okay. That's cute. Well, I don't. I'm not from there, but he does, and that's cool. I like it. All the stops, I'm sure, were interesting and meaningful. And I thought one of the best things about it was, one, he said he was expecting 500 people. There's thousands. There's great opening shot in this video of the time lapse, walk down the street of people starting. It's amazing too what you can get people to wait in line for in New York City. People are just used to it. They wait in line for everything.
Right. Fiorello LaGuardia. Fiorello means little flower in Italian. That was his nickname.
I see. Well, no wonder. Okay. That makes some sense. It sounded like it might be the case. But lots of people showing up for this. And also, by the way, one of their important points in announcing this is all of this scavenger hunt. every place in it was reachable by and was intended to be reached by public transit.
Or walking.
Yes. Well, that's public transit.
Because it's your city, and you should know your city.
And you should, and I know you're used to doing it. And there's been so much publicity about, in the polling, about like people who ride public transportation were 90% for Mamdani in the primary, and that the voting for all the other candidates was strictly about people who avoid that. And of course, it's such an issue now with Trump and his occupation of LA and DC, and the Republicans saying every city is a hellhole, and public transportation. Well, that's just a death wish. You'll be murdered the minute you think about taking the subway or a bus somewhere. No,
so
you won't. A pleasant afternoon can be passed that way.
Yeah, I was looking for related stories. As I was preparing the show, I was preparing the spontaneity here on the show, and I came across this piece in the Hindustan Times.
Oh. Okay,
and
the
headline is Zohran Mamdani serves chai as prize at end of New York City scavenger hunt.
Oh, that's nice.
And I've never had chai. I have to. It's apparently some kind of Indian tea with spices, and supposedly very good.
It means tea,
and can be served many, many different ways. And so this story says Zohran Mamdani's scavenger hunt drew hundreds of enthusiasts to the street, with finalists getting chai as the final reward. The scavenger hunt drew enthusiasts.
Oh, wait a second. Yeah, no, I'm on a different window. I have to click 19 times to get to the. Oh boy, come on now. Oh, this isn't even working. But you were waiting for enthusiasms. I know.
There we go.
But
the
however,
frontrunner announced the hunt in a video titled "Game On," where he's filmed eating the same brand and flavor of potato chips that a campaign aide for Mayor Adams allegedly stuffed with money and handed to a reporter. It's not alleged. That's what she did.
Yeah.
I got something to hide. A lot of things, in fact. She even admitted to it. It's not alleged.
That's true. Well,
I've got something to hide. A lot of things. In fact, he said, munching on the potato chips as he announced the scavenger hunt. The hunt started outside the Society of St. Tammany in Union Square. Yeah. Contestants were tasked with following a series of clues, all related to a very particular theme in New York City history, which is corruption and reform. The hunt proved so popular, volunteers ran out of cue cards for participants. On X, participants used the hashtag #ZScavengerHunt as they moved from one location to the other with the help of their clues. But it's all about the food. So he starts with potato chips, ends with chai, and, of course he's going to win because, he understands New York is all about food.
Yeah. All the popular foods. I don't know if hers sour cream and onion potato chips were popular, but now they'll be wildly popular. Chai, just, a hot food item, well, literally, although they do a cold version, but hot food item everywhere. A very nice spicy tea. And,
I would have to say, based on the whole thing, the well thought out theme of corruption and reform, the social media video, the use, and remember, adults learn by repetition. Let me say that again. That Mamdani is just pushing the idea of hers sour cream and onions potato chips, which is now going to be a staple at every stop he ever makes.
Sure.
He'll probably bring it to debate if there is one.
Offer
it to Eric Adams with a note inside.
The bag's still closed. It's literally potato chips. Go ahead.
We don't do this. You do this. That's what the note says. So that's an example of a successful campaign stunt.
Yes.
Let me give you an example of an unsuccessful campaign stunt. This one is not in New York City. In fact, we're going to go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where Nancy Mace is running for governor of South Carolina.
Yeah, she is. It's true. Right. For whatever reason, she's, I don't know, bored in Congress, and there are too many other stunt people there. So running for governor.
Jeff Tedros wrote this up on Substack.
Okay.
He's got his own little niche one there called "Everyone is Entitled to My Own Opinion." I love that title. And I feel that way too.
Sure.
And the title is "Nancy Mace Holds a Rally, 8 People Show Up, Try Not to Laugh."
Oh, well, too late.
Now, but it's worse than that.
How could it be worse than that?
Because the event was at a Moms for Liberty Horry County Chapter Meeting House.
What county? It's amazing.
Horry.
I see. All right.
Horry County.
Good county.
Okay. Now, Moms for Liberty.
Oh,
the people,
yeah.
The nut people who come in and try to screw up your schools.
Right.
You know about them in Loudoun County.
Yeah. Everywhere has to tolerate these idiots. Okay.
The fact that she could only get 8 people at a Moms for... There's got to be more than 8 people in the chapter.
You would think.
They weren't interested in coming to hear her. That's what's so funny about it.
Yeah. Well,
so Jeff Tiedrich writes, holy shit, Nancy Mace, the poster... I'm just reading what it says.
Yeah, that's
Nancy
Jeff
Mace, the
for
poster girl for transphobia, couldn't get more than 8 people to show up at a Moms for Liberty event. You remember the Liberty Moms. They're... these transphobic busybodies became the darlings of the right when they assigned themselves the job of policing America's school libraries, making sure little Sally and Jimmy don't get exposed to any subversive ideas like gay people should have human rights. They put an actual Hitler quote into the header of their newsletter. He gives an example. He alone who owns the youth gains the future, said Adolf Hitler. They included that in their June 2023 Parent Brigade newsletter.
Sure. I would.
Instead of going, yeah, that's crazy, what were we thinking? The moms are genuinely mystified about all the fuss. What's wrong to quote Hitler?
Yeah, he made the trains run on time.
Right. Things went further south, and the Liberty Moms co-founder started showing up in an endless series of homemade sex tapes. And they're just a charming bunch of madcaps. And these people, for some reason,
yes,
they couldn't show up at a Nancy Mace.
They were making sex tapes. They were very busy people. This is a lot of activity for these guys. Yeah, that's interesting. Not even for Nancy. I wonder, I don't know, whether it was announced late or people are on vacation or just they don't like Nancy Mace or they need a big, strong man to run for governor, perhaps.
That's if you need some advanced folks for your campaign, who are you going to hire? The Mamdani people or the Mace people?
Me, personally, well, first of all, I'd hire them, but I would put their paychecks in potato chip bags to make sure that they understood that, we're simpatico. Yeah, well... Nancy Mace doesn't have that option. And she's a screwball. And I guess she's got, I don't know what kind of base she's got left. She started out as a, no, I'm not one of those Trumpers. I'm a serious person. And a middle of the roader. And then she went wildly MAGA, which isn't great for her district, but might be better for her whole state running for governor. I guess that's why she's thinking of doing it. But I assume she had her kickoff event in her own area, and, people don't like her there. I'll have to look. Where is Horry County? You tell me.
I don't know.
Moms for Liberty. It's the right place for them.
I'm not from there.
Me neither. Okay,
but I do know there is an Indiana congresswoman by the name of Victoria Spartz.
Oh, gosh. Yes. We know
who's
her.
famous for changing her mind every 30 seconds in a way that makes you think she's insane.
Yeah.
Well, whatever she has, I think that Nancy Mace caught it because she's like the same.
Okay. Yeah, they are very similar in that sense. All right, yeah, so Myrtle Beach area. So coastal north of the Charleston area, Myrtle Beach. The borderline with North Carolina is where Horry County is. I'm sure they have a slightly... I don't know, their own pronunciation of it that doesn't sound like the way I'm saying it, but it's funnier that way. Okay. So beach, they were probably cleaning up, or maybe it was flooded, and that's why only 8 people showed up. They were the only people with kayaks.
Maybe it's Nancy Mace, and that's why only 8 people showed up.
That could be, and 7 of them may have been Nancy Mace in disguise, by the way. She's that kind of person.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
all right.
She canceled the speech and just took questions from reporters.
Where are all the people
there? I think were reporters.
That might have been what accounted for it.
The same thing happened, by the way, to Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
Andrew Cuomo gave a speech in the ballroom. I think it was like the Sheraton Hotel. I think he always gives all of his events in this one place.
Oh.
And like 8 people showed up. And there was some worry because one of the people that showed up was a reporter, and people were hoping she kept enough distance between her and Andrew Cuomo in that large ballroom so that he didn't have a chance to touch her.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, I wonder what the attraction is for him to use the same place.
I don't know.
It's
Probably corruption of some kind.
Yeah.
We just don't know what kind.
A friend owns it, and they're kicking back part of the fee. Who knows?
Who knows? But I'm just saying that as
I think
things
this
stand,
is true.
Cuomo is a number 2, fair to say, in
He's
polling.
a number 2. You're right.
Curtis Sliwa, who claims momentum, is number 3, and Eric Adams is a distant number 4. So
yeah.
that's
Okay.
likely
I
how
don't even
they
know what
finish,
number
by
4
the way.
would be, but okay. Yeah.
But I don't.
I'm enjoying
if you
it.
have an event and nobody shows up, don't
Yeah,
you
that's
cancel
bad.
the event? What do you do?
I guess.
Had a scheduling
Right?
unexplained
She said she did.
scheduling conflict.
Hmm.
And although he was seen backstage, he's nowhere to be found now.
Oh. So all right. What can you do? People are embarrassed, and they manifest that in different ways. Okay.
Another thing you could do is like drop out of the race. Like if
Oh, yeah.
you're getting,
Like
if
you
you're getting
lost
Jeb
it.
Bush clap,
Wow.
vibes.
Yes,
Maybe
right.
it's time to just like stop.
Right, and it's not the kind of clap you usually find in Horry County either.
Yeah,
I'm just
don't go
saying. Okay. What do you mean I will go there? Are you out of your mind? Of course I'm going there. All right. Well, that's so a lot of local news for segment
Click that
1.
like, mash the subscribe button. Come
Yes.
on.
Oh, right. This is the first time we've ever heard this news. Don't forget. And like, subscribe, and comment, and tell us your feedback in the comments of the thing, and all that kind of stuff. We're generating a lot. People are doing lots of likes and comments on Patreon. We got a couple every once in a while in YouTube, and then a couple of them that basically ask me why, how would I invest in all my crypto holdings? Which I don't know. That just happens
You get
everywhere.
likes, I get corrections. That's
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. We'll be right back with some more.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Kos, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or two would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I just noticed scrolling around through social media, Armando is awake and around, and we're sending birthday
year older,
wishes.
right?
Yeah, right. So happy birthday right back at you, Armando, and thanks again also to our friend Mighty OCD, who I would say, it's not every day, so his OCD is getting better, and that he will tip people off to the beginning of our live stream, and I usually remember to retweet that and send that message on, and I'm not as OCD, I guess, but I think he's recovering, because every once in a while he's doing something else other than tipping people off, so it can't be that crazy, his OCD.
Right.
Okay.
So listen, I am a layperson. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I just happen to know from observation that there's two kinds of judges, good judges and Trump judges. Trump judge, for example, like Aileen Cannon.
Oh, my gosh.
But,
we haven't heard much from her lately.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, Paula, that's because the Department of Justice doesn't seem to be interested in bringing cases anymore for some reason.
Yeah.
Paula Zenas is a good judge,
Yeah.
and she's been assigned the Abrego Garcia case. As you may know, DOJ was forced to release him because, he didn't do anything. And as soon as that happened, ICE picked him up. So now he's in ICE detention, threatened with, if he doesn't cooperate and voluntarily go to Costa Rica, they're going to send him to Uganda because who knows why.
Why any of these
And as of
things?
this moment, this is filed 6 minutes ago by Anna Bauer. Kilmar Abrego Garcia files a habeas petition over his recent detention and impending deportation. The case is assigned to Paul Zenas, who is the presiding judge in Abrego's other civil suit in Maryland.
Sure.
And the petition is sealed on Pacer. Pacer is the electronic let's look it up thing.
Yeah.
And
technical term.
We don't know exactly where things stand, but that it clearly seems to be vindictiveness, retribution, and everything else that the Trump campaign is known for. So maybe Abrego Garcia has a chance there.
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, certainly the judge is going to he's got a good chance in front of this judge. This judge has had enough of this case and the Trump administration's cheating on it. And of course, is going to be, I think, appropriately outraged that deportation to Uganda is on the table. He's not from Costa Rica either. I mean, as between the two, I suppose he'd rather be in Costa Rica than Uganda, but he's Venezuelan. They've sent him to El Salvador. Now they're threatening Costa Rica or Uganda. And, but the Supreme Court apparently A-OK with, you can send people who come here and you don't like the method by which they arrived. Send them anywhere. It doesn't matter. Not just back home. And why bother doing that? That's just free travel. Send them to the moon. Why not? I don't know. I don't think the judge is going to stand for the threat. They're not going to be able to. He's clearly got no free will in making this decision. And of course, she's going to be upset having said, "Look, you have no reason to hold this guy," and letting him go. To have that interpreted as, well, you said this agency has no reason to hold him. What about this agency? And, I think the judges are getting annoyed with this. And in fact, that's what Judge Boasberg has been saying, that the federal judges are all getting annoyed with this stupid behavior, childish behavior by the DOJ, and they're worried about it, so they brought it to the Chief Justice's attention, and this has netted him an ethics complaint from the DOJ. That's how insane things are getting out there.
Yeah, well, speaking of how insane things are getting out there, Trump threatened ABC and NBC's news divisions again because they say bad things about him.
They say
and
real
also
things about
threatened him. Wes Moore in Maryland. He said that bridge that collapsed because
Francis Scott Key Bridge.
A boat hit
the other
it.
One. Yep.
So he's not happy that Wes Moore is talking about creating another district, a Democratic district, and getting rid of Andy Harris, who's head of the Freedom Caucus. That won't be in time for 2026, but would be in time for 2028. And Trump wrote, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland has asked in a rather nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. I assume he's talking about out-of-control, crime-ridden Baltimore. As president, I would much prefer that he clean up the crime disaster before I go there for a walk. Wes Moore pointed out less crime there than there used to be, and of course Trump is full of it. But then Trump adds, stop talking and get to work. I'll see you on the streets then. Also, I gave Wes Moore a lot of money to fix his demolished bridge. I will now have to rethink that decision. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The whole point there really is that Trump doesn't have the power to do rescission on every single funding thing that he doesn't like. But, the Supreme Court sucks. So what can you do?
Yeah.
And I can't emphasize how much this is true. The Supreme Court sucks.
Yes. I don't know. I got no objection to that. That's the conclusion you have to draw. They've done this, and there's an increasing body of writing about it in all of the opinion pages and the Substacks and the analyses that people are putting out, just laying a lot of this at Roberts' feet and saying, for a guy who was interested in establishing a legacy and in putting his stamp on his era as Chief Justice, he's really blown it. He's really undermined the authority of the court, the federal judiciary in general, and all the things that everybody kind of knew when he said during his confirmation hearing, well, we're just about balls and strikes. Well, that's not going to be true. But how untrue could it get?
Oh, he's about balls and strikes. Republicans get 4 strikes and Democrats get 3.
That could be all there is to it. Yeah. It's been quite ridiculous, and they really painted themselves in a corner. If they thought they could control this,
That's what they said about Hitler.
Yeah. And now they can't.
That is what they said about Hitler, by the way.
Yeah.
So the third thing,
German,
in addition to
though.
threatening ABC, NBC, and threatening Wes Moore, he threatened Chris Christie.
Yes, another one. So I guess it was.
So after John Bolton, you got to take it seriously. So I assume Christie will be investigated.
I guess so. And for anybody who thought that the leopard was full and satiated when they ate Liz Cheney's face, yeah, I guess not. Everybody. I was reminded this morning via social media that nothing new, nothing recent on this front, but news from January. Mike Pompeo yank his security clearance and his Secret Service protection. There's any number of former, first administration Trump people, and right through to the 2020 campaign and everything, that he's now hanging out to dry. I'm not certain even what the motivation is for some of these people that he's cutting loose and investigating and having their houses raided. But he's insane, I guess, and now they'll all pay for it.
So this is an interesting interview with Will Stancil.
Okay.
Who's often a critic of the Democratic Party's wimpiness. And he's on the Daily Blast with Greg Sargent. I sent you the transcript. And it says, Gavin Newsom's harsh Trump takedown nails it. Wake up. As Newsom escalates his warnings about Trump, a critic of Democratic Party failures explains how Newsom is offering a new approach to the InfoWars and why it hints at it as an answer to MAGA authoritarianism. And Greg Sargent writes, California Governor Gavin Newsom is breaking through the noise. And by the way, I sent you a montage of some of the more recent pictures of Newsom on social media. Some of them are pretty funny. There's one riding a bear like Vladimir Putin. There's one with Paul Bunyan, except it's Newsom's head. The one I love is the 2 6-shooters, bare-chested, six-pack Newsom riding a velociraptor.
Yeah, there's an American flag
really
mounted on it.
With American flag coming out of his head for some reason. And, that is just so Trumpy.
Yeah.
And then Gavin Newsom is Superman, shaking Trump's hand, squeezing it, and making him cry. So, you can't ignore him. They're just
why would
ubiquitous.
You?
They're everywhere. Fun. They're very funny. And they're more than just funny. They just throw everything that MAGA does right in their face where they can't ignore it.
Right. No wonder they hate that.
So Sargent says part of this is because he's forging ahead with a plan to gerrymander California. That's why he's breaking through the noise.
Right.
But we think there are deeper reasons Newsom is breaking through right now, and that Democrats can learn from them. And again, Zohran Mamdani is not running for president, but there's things about his campaign you can learn from.
Sure.
Including, being authentic and doing it about food. Those are 2 things right there. But also enjoying and loving what it is you're doing and the people you want to represent. And the same thing you can learn from Newsom. That doesn't mean he's going to be the Democratic nominee. A California moderate white guy is not going to be the nominee that brings in the Midwest into the Democratic coalition. So it ain't going to happen, but he's having fun with it right now. And Greg Sargent writes, it's clearly on display when Newsom recently issued a stark warning about Trump's long-term intentions. In doing so, he connected the dots in a way Democrats rarely do. We're talking about all this with Will Stancil, a policy researcher and attorney in Minneapolis who's been a relentless online critic of the Democratic Party's failure to rise to this moment. He's developed an interesting set of arguments about what's happening in our politics. And he says, California legislators passed a plan to pave the way for redrawing lines on the state's House seats. Newsom signed it. And then it goes to the voters in a special election.
Right.
What's interesting to me, Greg Sargent, is that there's nothing mealy-mouthed about any of this. Newsom is saying, and I paraphrase, you're damn friggin' right we're going to gerrymander if the Republicans are. Dems don't usually talk like this. What's your overall take? And Will Stancil says, I think he's doing the right thing. He's being honest about the moment. He's being honest about Texas. He's not beating around the bush or pretending he's advancing some lofty procedural goal. He's saying we're here to win. We can't let these guys win. We're going to do what you need to do. And honestly, it kills me to say this because I'm not traditionally a big Gavin Newsom fan. But I've been waiting a long time to hear Democrats talk like this.
Yeah.
And Sargent says, so have I, and I think that's a critical point. You can read the rest of the piece, but that's basically what this comes down to.
Yes. Yeah, I got that sense, and it was clear enough to me. This isn't what Greg Sargent wants to hear, but it was clear enough to me that I didn't read the piece because I'm like, well, I know this, I know where this is going. But there's, as you've pointed out, how do adults learn? By repetition, right? And sometimes it's just a matter of making sure everybody gets a chance to be reached as part of the audience. Not that they didn't remember it the first time, but they haven't heard it yet. What? Gavin Newsom is doing what now? I haven't seen this. Maybe they left Twitter in a huff, like a lot of us did, and they don't see this there. Although I guess it's all over Blue Sky too, and it's not just being screen capped. I don't know. Does he do Blue Sky? Gavin Newsom? No one knows.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
what
it's very
Stancil
entertaining.
says is what Newsom seems to be saying is,
Yeah.
I don't care if you think I'm obsessed. It's worth being obsessed. This is scary stuff. A scary man. He's going to ruin our country, and I'm going to fight him. And it's striking. And what I also think is interesting is that it's working. And Sargent says, when you say it's working, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Stancil says, well, people are paying attention to him as a leader of the Democratic Party in a way I don't think anybody's achieved. Other than Joe Biden, and that's just because he was president, since Trump entered politics. Right now, Newsom is seen, I would say, as Trump's primary opponent, and he's put himself in that position by taking him on directly and talking directly about the threat.
Okay.
And he's not afraid, says Sargent, to act as if Trump is at the very center of everything. The only way for Democrats to succeed is to essentially feed that phenomenon in their own way, say other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a disaster for Newsom. It's only when he actually forgets about that and accepts the idea that MAGA is a singularly destructive force that he actually succeeds. What do you think about that? And Stancil says, to be clear, I'm not a big Newsom fan. And that's because the early approaches here, just to paraphrase, wasn't very good.
Yeah.
He's looking for a way to get attention. And one of the ways this really profoundly demonstrated itself is what he did at the beginning of the year. He was going on right-wing talk shows, et cetera, et cetera.
He thought that would be the standout
white
move.
supremacist and racist and bigot and authoritarian. He was approaching them and saying, let's talk to them. That's what Gretchen Whitmer is doing now. It ain't going to work, folks. And then there were some policy positions. I edited
did that
but
fail?
That's true.
Should I do
That's what
that?
she's trying. And it's not
didn't know
going
that.
to work.
Well, it's not working now but in a better way than you would have thought, because I haven't noticed it. But
right, and he says, Stancil says, I guess one of the advantages, it turns out, of being an opportunist who's flexible is that you're iterating always to see what works, and he's iterated himself into something that does work.
Yeah, I mean, at bottom, that's what it is. So you don't have to, and that's a good, helpful explanation for it if you're like somehow worried about, but I don't like Gavin Newsom. Well, don't worry about it. You can understand this to be, well, he's just casting about for things that work, and he's found one that does, and it hasn't convinced me that he should be my guy for president, but in the meantime, look at this.
Right. And I think this is important stuff. Greg Sargent notes the trolling and the social media stuff. That's not what's allowing Newsom to break through, although it probably helps. It's that Newsom is saying two things. First, we're not going to let Republicans play by different rules anymore. And secondly, we're going to use our power however we can. I don't care if the New York Times editorial board doesn't like it.
Yeah. Now, I will point out that explaining jokes usually takes the fun out of it. And in a way, I mean, this is also part of the reason I like Greg Sargent a lot. I'd hear from him a lot. I enjoy what he does. He plays a certain role. And the role, though, is this kind of interview analysis explainer, whereas I'm like, I get the joke. It's okay. I can just look at the pictures and laugh. I don't actually know. Well, but it's only 64% of the reason that he's breaking through, and some portion of it is, let me guess, people hate Trump. Yeah, there's that. Authenticity. I get it. Some people really needed an analysis for him.
Well, Stancil says another thing, which I think is true.
All right, then.
There was a time you could say things like Trump's an authoritarian or a fascist, or democracy is at stake. This is existential, and people would say to you, "Calm down, let's not get overheated." Now, given what Trump is doing, Democratic rhetoric has gone down, not up. It just doesn't fit the moment.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Now is when you should be saying he's an authoritarian and a fascist. And no, don't calm down. This is true.
Okay.
And this matters. And that's what Democrats should be saying. So I think that's all interesting. I think it's all true. Newsom isn't the only one who could do this. Chris Murphy is saying it in his own way, but he's not running for president yet.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Also, Chris Murphy has no control over whether or not Connecticut redistricts, and what would be the point? Because all of the Connecticut districts, all 5 of them are blue anyway.
Just for fun.
It's a non-story on the side, whereas Newsom is doing something that, by the way, in addition, is big news.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot happening that's big news, and that's one of them. But, yeah, this has been an interesting development, and I don't know. I hope this is the end of the discourse or the time spent on social media fretting about whether or not it's okay to enjoy a funny jab at Donald Trump if it's being done by Gavin Newsom. Yeah, go ahead. Don't worry about it. I think everybody understands it doesn't obligate you to vote for him, and it doesn't make you a hypocrite if you enjoyed a meme that he circulated and then you don't profess your love for him. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right. All right.
In any case,
Yes.
so I don't know. Let's see what else we can talk about. John
there's a
Storer
million
has a
things.
really excellent review of things Charles Gaba has to say about Medicaid, and I want to give you a local story to help illustrate that.
All right.
But the editorial board, writing at the editorial board, which is Store's shop, he
Yes.
says, if you're on Medicaid or Obamacare,
That's right.
read this now. Charles Gaba explains the GOP's gaslighting bullshit.
Hey. Yeah.
The Republican budget bill that recently passed the House adds onerous work requirements that would push millions of people off Medicaid. Mike Johnson told Meet the Press they'll only lose their health care if they choose to do so. And that, according to Charles Gaba, is gaslighting bullshit. The entire point of imposing work requirements is to discourage eligible people from enrolling or make the requirements difficult to comply with.
Yeah.
One of the respondents to my pundit roundup this morning works at a Long Island, New York hospital, which does heavy Medicaid, and points out, the requirements are already onerous, and just over and over and over again, these are people who, due to circumstance, are on it, they're off it. They just last week made too much money and got kicked off, and then they have to re-enroll, and they forgot to re-enroll, and we thought we were covered, and that's reality.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to administer as is. But what this one big, beautiful, ugly, disgusting bill did, among other things, is get rid of a lot of the Obamacare subsidies. And now people find that they can't afford
They will be surprised
Obamacare.
if they haven't been paying attention. Yeah, all of a sudden
They will
all the
face
things that
massive
made it-
premium hikes, in many cases 3 or 4 times higher than what they're paying right now, and that's impacting some 24 million Americans, most of them, Charles Gaba reminds me, John Storer, residing in red districts.
Yeah.
And then so he goes ahead and interviews Charles. And the version of the budget bill passed recently by House Republicans absolutely would gut Medicaid if implemented, particularly for roughly 20 million Americans who are currently enrolled in Medicaid via the Affordable Care Act, in effect across 41 states. There'll be made to it in this changes made in the Senate, so we don't know what the final version is going to be. And this was back in June. We do know now that it's law and it hurts and it's a big deal. So that's kicking in. And as a side point here, this is from the Connecticut Mirror earlier this week on the 21st. Prospect Medical Holdings, which owns 3 hospitals in Connecticut, a for-profit group, is going bankrupt, and says Connecticut hospital bidder news imminent. The bankrupt hospital operator also asked the court to require Yale New Haven Health to indirectly participate in the sale auction of Waterbury Hospital. Waterbury and St. Mary's are the 2 hospitals in Waterbury, Connecticut, which is a fairly large town as far as that goes. And Waterbury Hospital has been in trouble for years. It's been changing owners like every 3 or 4 years. And everything is just getting worse because of what's going to happen to Medicaid. So if it was hard to run Waterbury Hospital before, it's even harder now. Prospect Holdings, by the way, claims they own and operate 12 hospitals and a network of more than 165 outpatient facilities in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Southern California. And what's interesting is you go to their site, Prospect Medical Holdings.
Yes.
Okay. And there's a little blurb that, who are we? Hospital locations map. Check out our interactive map to view our 16 hospitals in 5 states. And when you go there to do that, it says we own 12 hospitals in 4 states.
Well, they're being sold very quickly. They're going like hotcakes.
4 hospitals in 1 state. We won't even talk about that. They are dead to me. We're not even discussing that.
They were actually NFTs. And
something
no
like
one
that.
cares about them anymore. Okay. That's not good news. It's got to be their lowest priority is maintaining their website, I suppose. But, versus like providing healthcare to people.
I'm just saying, you have these conglomerates with venture capital behind it. They buy up newspapers and then they figure out, I can't really make a living, so I'll sell off the holdings and
First
that's
I'll
how I
fire
make money. And I don't really care what happens to you. I'm out of here.
Yeah, pretty much. And then they don't even bother to note, I don't even own 16 hospitals anymore. I stole 4 or I lost 4 of them on my way to work, whatever it might be. I don't know. That doesn't inspire confidence in terms of like, well, we're local and connected to you and care about your health. Oh, I don't own this hospital? I'm out of here. Forget it.
So tying these themes together, which is to say the threat that Gavin Newsom sees Donald Trump, is to the United States and democracy, and this little thing about Medicaid. Ron Brownstein notes, it's drawn little attention, but the Trump administration in the California National Guard deployment case before Judge Breyer has argued there's no civil remedy to the Posse Comitatus Act. Barring domestic use of military. They say only criminal charges are possible, meaning courts can't stop a deployment.
Okay.
So you do it. They can't stop you. They have no power to stop you. You do it, and then you can sue them and say they're criminally negligent or whatever, but that's later. We're already here. You can't stop us. So Ron Brownstein notes many D.C. Democrats treat Trump's steps to occupy blue cities as an intrusion on their 28 different plans to run on Medicaid and tax cuts, and often describe Trump's moves attempting to distract them from this.
Oh, I see.
But all evidence suggests crushing blue institutions is in fact his top second-term goal. So D.C. Democrats just get everything wrong.
Oh, well.
Because their consultants get everything wrong. And, there are people out there like Newsom, like Mamdani, who are getting it right. Listen to them. That's all I'm saying. And that's my segment for today.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up nicely. It's a good point. And that's what you're not going to get a chance to vote. Most of you are not going to get a chance to vote for Mamdani. And actually, maybe a lot of you will get a chance, but won't want to vote for Gavin Newsom, and that's all okay. But yeah, I don't know. Your other choices, if they're telling you to think about the kitchen table, and you don't want to, how enthusiastic are you going to be about voting for people? I don't know. Maybe you'll just never find somebody you're enthusiastic about. Vote for the people who are doing something fun.
Putnam, by the way, sends us this. Josh Friedman writes on Blue Sky, the Maryland District Court automatically enjoins the government from removing Gilmar Abrego Garcia from the U.S. until 4 p.m. Wednesday as it prepares to hear arguments.
Yeah.
And separately, the Trump administration, Lawrence Hurley points out, is challenging this standing order by suing all the Maryland federal judges.
Oh, that seems good. Parallel to that, Anna Bauer.
You have no right to stop us.
Anna Bauer says this just in on Twitter. DHS says that he, quote, will be processed for removal to Uganda. That's their decision. So everybody's talking at cross purposes here, but that's where we now stand. The DHS
so the judges
says he's
are going to come in and say, wait a minute, you need time. You need at least a couple of days to sort this out. And the feds are saying, you have no right to tell us what to do.
Right. You judges who think you understand or know how to run these courts, we're going to sue you. I don't know where we're going to sue you because we have to sue you. I thought we had to sue you in the courts that you run, but I don't know. But that's one of the other problems that there are different approaches that different judges are taking, and there are still even the judges who are standing up and fighting, to the extent that they can do that, are doing things by saying, well, yes, I'm standing up and fighting. Well, I say I'm standing up and fighting. What I mean is tomorrow we'll have a preliminary hearing about whether or not I am entitled to stand up and fight. And if so, then next Wednesday is the day we've scheduled for oral argument about whether I should fight. And then, of course, we'll be bringing in, each side will brief me, and I will make a decision on whether or not there's a probable cause for me to be in the right if I decide to fight. Okay, well, he's gone to Uganda now. What are you going to do? Well, we'll bring him back. Well, eventually, it worked last time. Maybe we'll be able to bring him back. I don't know how many times you can disappear a guy before there's no bringing him back. I'm a little worried about that, and you should be too. So, okay, you will be, I'm sure, and then you can tell us how worried you are about it on Wednesday. We'll schedule your preliminary hearing for you to tell us about how worried you are. But by Wednesday, we should have I guess we'll have some clarity on what's happening, even if what's happening is totally insane, like was it the DOJ filed, tell me that again, suing all the federal judges in Maryland? Where did you see that? What's that?
I did see something about that.
Yeah, where? I'd like to find that.
Okay, well, I'll send it to you because we're at the end of our string here. But we'll see what happens. Again, what the feds generally do is, I know it's wrong, but we're going to send him somewhere else anyway, and then you'll get us in court, and then we'll have to bring him back, and then we'll just send him somewhere else because we can do whatever we want until you catch us and tell us we can't.
Yeah, and that's their general approach to things. Okay, fine. The federal courts have got us over a barrel. We can't send him to Uganda. All right. You didn't say we couldn't send him to Rwanda, and that rhymes, so we're going to do it.
All right, I'm sending you a PBS story on Trump suing the entire Maryland bench.
Thank you. I will go and take a look at that because that seems somewhat ridiculous, and I have a minute to digest it. You have 2 days or something like it. Anyway, 2 days time till we hear from you again, minus an hour, of course. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Okay.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Before I get to these, I've got two pieces here from Greg, both interesting in terms of their focus in their headlines as well. Just another one of those, maybe you're not meeting the moment thing exactly, but this is very puzzling. It would be very difficult, I think, to know how to write a headline for this because this is just not a thing normally. But before I get there, and I should have done this before, Greg took off for the day because he'll be interested in, it's relevant, it's medical news. It's in the Daily Beast, which also means that I don't think I can read the entirety of the article. And it's important to be able to read the entirety of a Daily Beast article because just in the last 24 hours or so, somebody, clout chasing on social media got 100 bazillion retweets with a flawed and unsupported interpretation of a news event that they said was supported by a Daily Beast article, but then I couldn't read the Daily Beast article. But then people who did read the Daily Beast article said, hey, this Daily Beast article, it's a Daily Beast article in case you didn't know, doesn't say this thing that you're saying in your social media post, and we should not go in for this sort of thing. Although, it sounded like interesting and fun and poking a hole in a Republican story, and so well worth sharing ordinarily, but then hey, it turned out there's nothing in this that says as much. This, too, came across by social media, but at the very least, I can tell you that the headline of the Daily Beast post does, in fact, appear to say this thing that others were repeating in their posts. Trump and RFK Jr., it says, to ban COVID-19 vaccine, quote, within months. I don't know what this is about. Tom Latcham is the reporter for Daily Beast. What I can read says a close associate of the HHS secretary claims the U.S. government will soon pull COVID-19 mRNA jabs from the market. So I don't know whether that's designed to make you want to run out and get shots, designed to make you outraged about something, designed to boost the stock price of the producers of mRNA vaccines. I don't know what, but That's what we're facing, according to the Daily Beast. The Trump administration will move to pull the COVID vaccine off the U.S. market within months. One of Robert F. Kennedy's closest associates has told the Daily Beast. And I must warn you, one, I don't know who this person is. It does give a name, but I just wanted to remind you, if we're talking about one of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s closest associates, you might be talking to a lunatic. So I don't know, but the Daily Beast seems confident enough, at least, to run with the story that I guess they could convince the legal department this person did say on the record that RFK Jr. is thinking about this. That may be a lie, but this person did go on the record. It is Dr. Asim Malhotra, a British cardiologist who has repeatedly claimed in the face of scientific consensus that the vaccines are more dangerous than the virus. So not really a person you want to listen to necessarily, but they did say to the Daily Beast that Kennedy's stance is shared by, quote, influential members of Donald Trump's family, which would mean his immediate family, because there aren't any other influential members of Donald Trump's family. The rest of them, I mean, they're influential. Some of them are influential with us, but very few people are influential. Very few people are family to Donald Trump and influential with him. Of course, they could be lying about whether or not they're influential. That's true. All right. What happens? I think the Daily Beast has a particularly robust paywall system that is resistant to Instapaper's ordinary powers of intrusion. But we'll take a look. And of course, also, it came through, and I don't know whether it will display. I think the issue with the Daily Beast is once you click through, even the Instapaper version, like the old Pocket version, doesn't, get past the paywall. But thankfully, it did download it, which means it also brought along a couple other articles that I've been hoping to share. Well, this one does get past it, so maybe they flipped a switch of some kind or thought this was important enough news to share with you. That part we got through the earlier two paragraphs here. So Dr. Asim Malhotra, this British cardiologist, says that this is true, that the stance against mRNA vaccines is shared by, quote, influential members of President Donald Trump's family. Like Kennedy himself, no Trumps hold any scientific qualifications. Important reminder. Malhotra is a leading advisor to the controversial lobby group Make America Healthy Again, Action. That's MAHA, Action. Action is for acting, of course. He's a British cardiologist. Not sure what he's doing meddling in this, but there's lots of crossover because he speaks English, I guess. He told the Beast that many of those closest to RFK Jr. have told him they, quote, cannot understand, unquote, why the vaccine continues to be prescribed, and that a decision to remove the vaccine from the U.S. market pending further research will come within months, even if it's likely to cause, quote, fear of chaos and bring with it major legal ramifications. It could happen in a number of stages, including learning more about the data, said Malhotra, who said there was an ongoing review into so-called vaccine injuries by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. But given the increased talk of vaccine injuries in the past few weeks among the administration, it could also come with one clean decision. Oh, that's rarely the case with Donald Trump. But it's hard to know what to make of this because we're being tipped off to this in a way that would ordinarily suggest that the information is coming from an opponent of the move, but it isn't. I guess this person is actually supportive of the move and is celebrating the fact that they'll be removing this vaccine allegedly from the American market within months or 2 weeks or some other very short period of time. Malhotra said the skepticism among Kennedy's circle of the COVID-19 jab is driven by a 2022 paper by a group of physicians and university professors and researchers which appeared in the journal Vaccine. The peer-reviewed paper, and by the way, you can be peer-reviewed and be panned, but okay. The peer-reviewed paper examined secondary analysis of serious adverse events reported in, ellipsis, clinical trials of Pfizer and Moderna mRNA COVID-19 vaccines in adults and said that those given the mRNA vaccines had a 16% higher risk of, quote, excess serious adverse events, unquote, than those in the placebo group. However, the study has been dismissed by large parts of the medical community who say it underestimates the benefits of COVID-19 vaccines and overstates risks due to methodological flaws, biased data selection, and ignoring broader public health impacts. Hooray. Here's a picture of these two nudniks, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Asim Malhotra, together to illustrate the foolishness of the piece somehow. Malhotra was not among the authors of the study, but said that he presented its findings during a Maha Action Team video meeting on July 9th, which was attended by senior aides to Kennedy, but not Kennedy, I guess. He claimed it caused a holy S-word moment, and it's some dashes in this version of it, among many of those present, although I think they were looking for that moment. And I have my doubts about how outraged or amazed or surprised they really were. I'm going to, I guess, end it at this point. You've gotten the gist of it. There might be more interesting bits and pieces about just how out there, this particular doctor is. As I flip through, I see more pictures of the two of them together. And then as I scroll further down, there is the picture of, and this really seals it, I guess. He's with medical expert Mel Gibson. So there you go. But I mean, I'm not certain what that's supposed to illustrate other than that this guy moves in very fringy circles. And so he may know, he might be able to trust that he knows what people in fringe circles are saying they want to do. And I guess you got to be worried about that possibly becoming a reality, because that sort of thing is becoming a reality all over the place. I don't know whether that means you should run out and get shots, but I guess if you haven't for a while and you've been thinking about it, you might want to move it up higher in the agenda, perhaps. All right. Let's see. Other things I wanted to bring to your attention. There are many. Developments over the weekend. I should take a quick look in my own social media feed and remind myself that lots of people spent their time over the weekend being outraged continuously about Cracker Barrel, but I think we kind of have that one taken care of. Chris Christie got a mention earlier. I have only this news on Chris Christie, that Aaron Rupar grabbed Trump's Truth Social post about him. And interestingly, the threat is to prosecute Chris Christie for Bridgegate, which I guess will get some mixed reactions around. Remember that there were, at the time, certainly plenty of Democrats who would have been happy to see Chris Christie prosecuted for Bridgegate. So does it make you happy now? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know if you can separate it from the current politics of the moment. But ordinarily I would say don't worry too much about it, because, as others have pointed out about this thing, we're well past the statute of limitations on that. But that doesn't mean you need to, worry about or support Chris Christie in any way. By the way, before I'm just checking out. Somebody else is commenting on the Daily Beast's Blue Sky post with regard to that vaccine removal. And I just wanted to see whether there was something I needed to add to this. But I think we can let that story go at the moment and just put the warning out there. At any rate, the Chris Christie thing, Aaron Rupar grabbed the Truth Social post, which goes like this. It's a lengthy one. I just watched sloppy Chris Christie be interviewed on a ratings-challenged, quote, news show called This Week with George Slopadopoulos. Sloppy Chris Christie, Slopadopoulos. Slop is on his mind, I guess. On ABC Fake News. By the way, he says parenthetically, what the quote, hell, I don't know why that's in quotes, what the hell happened to Jonathan Karl's hair? He's got things to say about people's hair, this guy, at this point. He looks absolutely terrible. It's amazing what bad ratings on a failed television show that was forced to pay me $16 million can do to one's appearance. End parentheses. Can anyone believe anything that sloppy Chris says? Do you remember the way he lied about the dangerous and deadly closure of the George Washington Bridge in order to stay out of prison? At the same time, sacrificing people who worked for him, including a young mother who spent years trying to fight off the vicious charges against her. What a twist, right? Plot twist for all of us. Chris refused to take responsibility for these criminal acts for the sake of, all caps, justice. Perhaps we should start looking into that very serious situation again. No one is above the law. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. It's hard to know what to think about this. Like, on the one hand, well, maybe he should face justice. Of course, this probably wouldn't be justice that he was actually facing. But interesting. And of course, does it make you wonder at all, if you thought that this was a dangerous and deadly closure and a criminal action and this and that, you might wonder, well, why did you hire him to run your campaign? Twice, basically. And not to run the whole thing, but to be on your campaign team and your debate prep team. But then at the same time, why were you trying to murder him with COVID while you were practicing to try to murder Joe Biden with COVID? And I don't know. It just seems so crazy. But, he'll latch on to anything. He really doesn't care how ridiculous or hypocritical it makes him look. That's just not a thing for him. So I guess not. All right. Now back to what Greg was telling us about on his exit, that NBC News and PBS both have taken a look at, if you take a look, it's usually Trump's tell, taking a look at what's happening in Maryland with two different headlines, and I don't know whether the approach is different, but I'm just interested and fascinated. How do mainstream news outlets sort of soft pedal this stuff? The PBS approach: Trump lawsuit against Maryland's entire federal bench meets skepticism in court. And that's where it'll meet skepticism, generally speaking. Yeah, I'd like to see what their approach is. And then the NBC headline: Judge says he's skeptical of a Trump lawsuit against every federal judge in Maryland. I thought that that's a new headline, because the URL for the NBC News one was court weighs unusual Trump lawsuit. So the URL, court weighs unusual Trump lawsuit, Maryland-based federal judges, RCNA. Okay, unusual. It is unusual for the federal government to sue the entire federal bench of the state. I'm not certain which of the two stories is the more interesting versions, but let's look at the PBS one, since that's first. Trump lawsuit against Maryland's entire federal bench meets skepticism in court. Yeah. Leah Skeen, Associated Press. Okay, so it's not a PBS generated piece, but AP. And I guess I could look and see, did NBC News do their own piece? And does that tell us anything? Is that more interesting somehow? I don't know. Lawrence Hurley, yeah, to a NBC reporter on that one. I don't know. They're covering the same ground, I would think. Is one earlier or later than the? Oh, in fact, it's interesting. I hadn't heard this, but it's not brand new either. It's an August 13th article, so I guess it doesn't count as latest development. I thought that this was being offered up, or this suit was brought in response to perhaps Judge Zenas and others who were ruling on the Abrego Garcia case, but I guess not. Back on Wednesday, whenever Wednesday was around, in the neighborhood of August 13th, a judge expressed some skepticism about an unprecedented lawsuit in which the Trump administration sued all 15 Maryland-based federal judges over a standing order related to deportation cases. So this today's situation with the DHS insisting that they were going to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Uganda comes well after this, or in reaction to developments on this lawsuit. The lawsuit is the latest escalation of the Trump administration's war on the judiciary, which, well, it's not the latest, but it was then, which had been marked by criticism of judges who have ruled against the government over President Donald Trump's bold and aggressive use of executive power. There you are. Thanks, NBC News. And by the way, you say things like that and sane wash it, and Trump still attacks you daily in social media. At issue is a standing order issued by Chief Judge George Russell on May 21st and updated a week later that set rules for handling cases involving immigrants facing immediate risk of deportation. The order applies a temporary stay of deportation for 2 business days while the case is considered. Justice Department sued, saying Russell has no authority to issue such a blanket order that effectively acts as a broad injunction against government actions without any assessment of whether the individual immigrants have valid cases. But of course, the ruling is, let's find out whether they have valid cases. You see, I mean, I guess this should be as clear an illustration as anything could possibly be. The judges are saying, not that you can't deport these people, but that I am saying we're, as a blanket rule, we're going to take 2 business days in each of these cases to see whether or not there's a real cause for deportation and whether the government has the evidence that they need to convince us that they're doing this correctly. And the government's answer to this, the federal government's answer to this is, you don't have the authority to determine whether or not you have the authority. Oh, I don't know how to react to that. That is very odd. You have no authority to issue a blanket order that effectively acts as an injunction without any assessment of whether the individual immigrants have valid cases. I know. I'm trying to find out. So you now have no authority to find out whether you have any authority. That is great. That should help the court's function just perfectly. But U.S. District Judge Thomas Cullen, who normally sits in Virginia and was assigned the case because Maryland judges cannot participate because they're being sued, and I think that's supposed to be the cleverness of this thing. Well, if we sue all the federal judges in Maryland and say you don't have the authority to determine whether or not you have the authority, like I was saying, well, that seems like a bad thing to do just in terms of getting in front of these judges, to start off by suing them. But how about that for cleverness? If I sue you, you can't sit in judgment of the validity of the suit because you're the defendant in the suit. Aha! So that's an interesting way to take out all of Maryland's federal judges. And who are you thinking of? What are you likely to be facing when you're talking about Maryland's federal judges? Maryland has 2 Democratic senators and has since forever. And to the extent that the norms have been have been the boundaries of procedure for putting people on the federal bench, right? They'll be getting their blue slips processed so long as they meet with the approval of 2 Democratic senators. So it's a pretty Democratic, I guess, leaning bench in Maryland. And one way to take them all out of the equation is to sue every single one of them. And as stupid as that is, and as baseless as that is, these same judges are prohibited from sitting in judgment of that case. You got to go get somebody from a nearby state. Now, if they're normal people, even if they're from Virginia, they'll say, well, okay, it's not that I hate people from Maryland. It's that I understand this is crazy. You can't just sue the entire federal bench and take them out. And 2, you certainly can't sue to prevent people from judges from considering whether or not they have the authority to act in this case. And yet here we are. I mean, it's interesting. This certainly, the headline hints that there's something wrong with what's going on, but then they say it's a bold and aggressive move. And then you find out what the bold and aggressive move is. 1, judges don't have authority to figure out whether they have authority. And 2, we're going to borrow something from like divorce law here, right? I learned this, I don't know, I've no personal experience with it, thankfully, but one of the things we kind of learned about in law school ethics classes, this is where this came up, I think. The idea being that if you were getting involved particularly in a high profile divorce case, that one of the somewhat dirty pieces of advice is you advise your client, I'd be happy to represent you. I'm glad you're going to work with me. But what you should do for your own safety, go around and meet with all the other prominent divorce attorneys in the area. But then in the end, come back and hire me. But you might understand this, and you might do this ahead of time. Maybe you already did it. But the advice is go and meet with every prominent top divorce attorney in the area, even if you don't hire them. Because according to the ethics rules, if you've consulted with them about your case, then if your spouse goes to hire an attorney to represent him or her or both, who knows, in a divorce case, all those other attorneys that you met with but didn't hire will be ethically obligated to refuse to take the case. So you remove the entire top-notch, top shelf of the divorce attorneys in the market from the pool that your spouse can draw from, which means, of course, they're at a disadvantage right away. I'm sure they can find competent attorneys elsewhere, but it's annoying and troublesome. And you can't hire the person that all your friends told you was the very best. So here they're doing the same thing, I guess. Sue the entire federal bench, and then they all have to recuse themselves. And it's a big, giant pool of democratically nominated and confirmed judges at that. And you remove them from not only this case that they're sitting in, but maybe you could make the argument that they have to be removed from every immigration case from now on. That's pretty amazing. All right, so what happened here? We've got to rejoin the NBC News article where we read that U.S. District Judge Thomas Cullen, who normally sits in Virginia, was assigned the case because Maryland judges cannot participate. And he questioned whether the Justice Department took the correct approach in filing a lawsuit. You probably picked up that I don't have a very good poker face, he said, addressing Justice Department lawyer Elizabeth Hedges. I have some skepticism, he added. Well, there are other avenues the government has to challenge the order, he said, including by appealing in a case involved in an individual immigrant in which the standing order is applied. That'd be like the normal way of doing things. Noting that the Supreme Court in recent months has acted quickly on a flurry of cases involving the Trump administration, Cullen said the dispute may have been resolved by now if the government had filed a regular appeal. But that's not what they're after. If recent precedent is any guide, you would already have a decision, he added. Cullen did, however, appear more sympathetic to some of the government's arguments on the merits, noting that the government lawyers made a fair point, he said, that even a 2-day delay acts as a form of temporary injunction. Well, yeah, it does. So, a former prosecutor, Cullen was appointed by Trump in 2020 with the backing of Virginia's 2 Democratic senators. Thanks a lot, Democratic senators. He said that he plans to issue a ruling by Labor Day, and that's coming in a week. The standing order came in response to the flurry of actions taken by the Trump administration relating to immigration, including moves to deport people without due process. You're supposed to take action on that. One of the most high-profile cases in the country involving a Salvadoran man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was wrongly deported back to his native country before being eventually returned, arose in Maryland. Is that the case? Do I understand that correctly? Maybe I misremembered that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was Venezuelan, but I guess he's not. Or else they got it wrong. That's possible too. In any case, nobody's talking about sending him to El Salvador anymore, and now it's Costa Rica or Uganda, and I guess the DHS has decided on Uganda. The order states that when an immigrant files a petition for habeas corpus in a federal court in Maryland, the government is temporarily prevented from deporting them until the claim can be adjudicated, which actually sounds normal and regular and responsible, and I don't know why anybody is upset, except the Trump administration hates not getting their way. The automatic stay has been applied to at least 12 cases so far, the government says. And, that's the way it should be. But, like I said, they hate losing, and they're just going to sue everybody if they lose their case. The standing order is intended in part to preserve existing conditions and the potential jurisdiction of this court over pending matters, Russell wrote. Hedges argued Wednesday, that's the government lawyer, that the order imposes restrictions on the government that courts in most immigration cases have no power to impose. Is that right? We are seeing a huge problem, she said. Hedges added that the lawsuit was not undertaken lightly. Oh, I didn't know that. And similar actions would not become commonplace, unless they did. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. The New York Times, by the way, just by way of information, is now up with a report on the threat that Trump made against Chris Christie. I don't think it adds anything to read this article, but at least you'll have an article to turn to and not just a blue sky post on the subject. But yeah, I'm almost done reading you the NBC News coverage of the rather incredible, that we didn't even take notice of it until now, lawsuit against every federal judge in Maryland. So the government attorney in this case was Elizabeth Hedges, who said the lawsuit, not undertaken lightly, and similar actions would not become commonplace, allegedly also. This is not an assault on the separation of powers, she said, although she probably said it because I don't know who's representing the federal judges, by the way, in this case. That's an interesting question. Does it say anywhere? Okay, here we go. There's the answer. Oh, and they're in good hands, certainly. But it may be that Hedges says that it's not an assault on the separation of powers because the people representing the federal judges in this case said, hey, this is an assault on the separation of powers. You can't do this. They're right. But maybe they're just pretty wrong. They know the law pretty well, I think, over there at the legal team representing the Maryland judges, because the Maryland judges, and I'm curious what mechanism they used to make this decision. And there's a chief judge for the District of Maryland, I'm sure, and I guess he or she gets to make this decision. Interestingly, though, they can disqualify all the judges. They can't disqualify all of the defense attorneys in this, because the DOJ, although they've not done this, maybe they should be doing this. They now should be going out and saying, we're going to hire outside counsel to represent us in these cases. Obviously, no DOJ attorney can defend the federal judges in this because the DOJ is the other party to the suit. But why didn't they go to every maybe there's too many, every top lawyer in Maryland and consult with them and say, I don't understand. These lawyers would say, why do you need to hire me to do this when you have the resources of the entire DOJ? And I don't know, they could resort to flattery. Well, we want the top people on this, and we think you're even better than all the people that we have at DOJ, but it's really just about disqualifying them from the case. And maybe they should have done it because they landed on Paul Clement, which is, usually bad news for whoever's on the other side. But there you go. Paul Clement is included anyway among the legal team. He, you may remember, served as Solicitor General under President George W. Bush, who you also may remember was a Republican, and that's unfortunate and sad. But there you have it. But Paul Clement, certainly highly qualified to do the job. Clement warned in court that if the lawsuit was allowed to move forward to a trial, it would create a nightmare scenario in which judges could be deposed and internal judiciary documents could be reviewed by the government, which of course was just a problem, as we read the other day. And they're doing it anyway in the case against the so-called case against Judge Boasberg in D.C. Anyway, all of that is avoided if you go the ordinary route, he added, referring to the government filing an appeal in one of the cases rather than suing judges. Everybody got that? I mean, we brushed past it. But just in case you didn't quite grasp it because of, my departures, for instance, from the narrative as being provided by NBC, what he's saying here is the fact that the judges issued this blanket order saying, look, we're going to have a 2-day review period to figure out what's going on in these cases where the government is moving for the removal of these immigrants. And let's just figure out, is the government following the rule of law here? Is there probable cause to believe that they're right? Are the due process rights that the defendants are afforded being honored, et cetera, et cetera? And for the government to sue and say, no, you have no right to do this. Look, ordinarily the thing to do is you appeal the issuance of this order to the next higher court. In this case, where's Maryland, the 3rd District? And ask them whether the federal judges in Maryland did right by the law. That's the normal procedure. Instead, you opted to directly sue every sitting federal judge in Maryland, whether or not they had anything to do with issuing this order, just because they're federal judges in Maryland and would be subject to this order. It's the controlling law, presumably, in Maryland federal courts until proven otherwise. But the job is you should have gone to the appeals court to question whether or not, could you prove otherwise? Is this not controlling federal law in Maryland? Was this a mistake? But instead of going that way, you went this other unusual method, as they're saying in the headlines, or at least in the URLs. But I have some, now we've got some idea of why they went the unusual route, even if Paul Clement isn't saying it. I don't know why he's not saying it. Does he say it in the PBS version of this story? Let's see. So far, no. And there's no more updates to this, too. The August 13th stuff is the most recent thing. So I guess this case is just sort of pending some sort of decision from Judge Cullen, the one from Virginia. Cullen serves, here's some extra information anyway in PBS. He serves in the Western District of Virginia, but he was tapped to oversee the Baltimore case because all of Maryland's 15 judges named are defendants, and a highly unusual circumstance that reflects the Republican administration's aggressive response to courts that slow or stop its policies. That is one way of putting it. At issue, of course, the lawsuit, in this lawsuit, is an order signed by Chief Maryland District Judge George L. Russell III. Isn't that the name of the guy from the character from the Golden Age, George Russell? Anyway, that prevents the administration from immediately deporting any immigrants seeking review of their detention in a Maryland federal court. So, that we heard before. The executive branch seeks to bring suit in the name of the United States government against a co-equal branch of government, said Paul Clement, a prominent conservative lawyer who served as Republican President George W. Bush's Solicitor General. There really is no precursor for this suit. That's certainly true. Clement listed several other avenues the administration could have taken to challenge the order, such as filing an appeal, the normal way. Cullen also asked the government's lawyers whether they had considered that alternative, which he said could have been more expeditious than suing all the judges. He also questioned what would happen if the administration accelerated its current approach and sued a federal appellate bench or even the Supreme Court. I think you probably picked up on the fact that I have some skepticism. Cullen told Justice Department Attorney Elizabeth, we got her middle name in this one, or perhaps her pre-married name, Elizabeth Themmons Hedges, when she stood to present the Trump administration case. That must have been embarrassing. Hedges denied that it would open the floodgates to similar lawsuits. Just, one floodgate, not the floodgates writ large, you see. The judge is already on to the idea that, and I expect now you'll see it too. Well, I guess he's thinking forward to supposing now here I am sitting in judgment of this case because every federal judge in Maryland is disqualified from the case because they're defendants in them. But okay, fine. We'll ship somebody in from Virginia. Not too much of a hardship, although Western District of Virginia, that's quite a bit of travel. Why they didn't pick somebody from the Eastern District right up here in the Northern Virginia area, I'm not sure, but that's what happened. Anyway, I mean, presumably the next move for the Trump administration is to say, so where's this guy from? Virginia? All right, fine. I'm suing all the judges in Virginia, too. In fact, I'm suing the entire federal judiciary. There's no one in America qualified to sit in judgment of this case. Unless, of course, but we'll waive the disqualification if it's Matthew, what's his name? Kaczmarek or whatever. So, okay. Maybe they go that route. But anyway, what Cullen is saying here is you could also disqualify. Normally, you should file an appeal to the Third Circuit. But are you saying you're not doing that because you would just end up suing the Third Circuit anyway? We're going to sue any judge that would dare to allow for 2 freaking days, 48 hours, to determine whether or not this whole thing is being done right. That's all that they're asking for here. It's just amazing that the judges are being, questioned at all in giving 2 days to review. You're trying to be careful and make sure the law is correctly applied. That's your crime in the view of the Trump administration. All right. Let's see. Anything else here? Cullen, who was nominated by Trump in 2019, said he would issue a ruling by Labor Day. So we are only waiting one more week to find out whether or not there's law anymore. If it's allowed to proceed, Cullen could also grant the government's request for a preliminary injunction. It would block the Maryland federal bench from following the conditions of the chief judge's order. So they're trying for that. The automatic pause in deportation proceedings sought to maintain existing conditions in the potential jurisdiction of the court, ensure immigrant petitioners are able to participate in court proceedings and access attorneys, and give the government fulsome opportunity to brief and present arguments in its defense, according to the order. Obviously, a radical communist ruling. Sure. Whatever. Russell also said the court had received an influx of habeas petitions after hours that resulted in hurried and frustrating hearings that obtaining clear and concrete information about the location and status of the petitioner is elusive. You can see why they want the 48 hours. Man, that's pretty crazy all around. But thanks to Greg for fishing those out and putting them in front of us, even though they're 2 weeks old now at this point. But I guess that just goes to show you what kind of flood we're facing. This insane case was filed and without our noticing it 2 weeks ago. Oh, well, sometimes I guess in a flood the zone situation, listening to Kagro in the morning is like getting the news 2 weeks late, except you probably didn't get it and you wouldn't have gotten it until next week when the judge issued their order and the Trump administration defied it after Labor Day. Okay. Well, there's an awful lot packed into that, and I don't know where to go next as a result. But I have a couple of things waiting in, not Pocket, but Instapaper, which may or may not be related. Let's try this one. I guess tying together the interest that rank and file Democrats across the country are taking in the manner in which Gavin Newsom is fighting back and asking for others to fight back because maybe they're not big Gavin Newsom fans and they would rather root for someone else. and the demand in general that rank and file Democrats have for elected Democrats or people in positions of Democratic leadership to do things like this. And I guess, by the way, wholesale declarations that frequently follow on social media by people who are justifiably angry about things, but who may not necessarily know all the things that are going on everywhere behind the scenes or not, who then post, I hate all the Democrats because none of them are fighting back. Well, some of them are, and maybe you just don't know about it or don't recognize it when it's happening. Or maybe it's just too small bore for you to have recognized it, or it didn't rise to the level of making it to the national news. But Democracy Docket has some news for you. Matt Cohen, who wrote at the end of last week about the Fulton County Democrats, Fulton County, Georgia, who are defying a court order, interestingly enough. And we're not usually in favor of people defying court orders, but, we're usually not in favor of gerrymandering in general, or certainly not gerrymandering in between censuses and ordinary redistricting. But you have to fight fire with fire. Fulton County Dems defy a court order and block appointment of election deniers. Oh, sounds like a good reason to defy a court order, but there is no reason, really. It's just, hey, we can't let this happen. And it's the sort of thing that we find usually Republicans doing. And you say, well, when are Democrats going to fight this way? Well, how about now? 2 members of the Fulton County, Georgia Board of Commissioners defied a court order, just outright defied a court order, and blocked the appointment of 2 election deniers to the County Board of Elections. During Wednesday's Board of Commissioners hearing, District 3 Commissioner Dana Barrett and District 4 Commissioner Mo Ivory, both Democrats, voted against appointing Republicans Julie Adams and Jason Frazier to the board. In May, the Board of Commissioners voted 5-2 to reject Adams's and Frazier's nominations, but the county Republican Party sued, claiming the board violated state law by rejecting their nominations. And I mean, maybe their motivation in defying the court order stems from this. Listen, we had a vote, you lost the vote. Now you're suing, claiming that we violated state law by having a vote. Did we? Did we not? What's the claim? I don't know. Earlier this month, a state court found that the Board of Commissioners did not have the authority to reject Adams and Frazier and ordered it to appoint the duo to the County Board of Elections during its next meeting. I don't know how we would have felt about that ruling at the time, and whether or not it was just, well, what can I tell you? The rules really say you don't have the opportunity to block them, but they're saying we're going to block them nonetheless, and that's kind of exciting in this atmosphere. The Board of Commissioners appealed the court's ruling. They didn't sue every state judge in Georgia to do it. They just appealed it. But their request to temporarily pause the order was denied, which is also interesting because in so many of these other cases that we're reading about, we're always hearing the judges saying, yeah, the Trump administration loses in this case, but I'm going to set aside my order pending appeal out of an abundance of fairness. When it goes the other way and the Democrats sue and a Republican or a judge in an not even overwhelmingly anymore, Georgia, Republican state, but probably appointed by I don't know how they appoint their judges actually in Georgia. But at any rate, Democrats sue and lose a case. But guess what? For some strange reason, no order to hold the decision in abeyance pending appeal for you. That is something we only afford to Republicans, I guess, in this country. Anyway, at the end of Wednesday's meeting, only 4 of the board's 7 commissioners remained to vote, resulting in a 2-2 deadlock in appointing Adams and Frazier. The Democrats kind of stood their ground on this one. In an email to Democracy Docket prior to the meeting, Barrett said she was planning to vote against the appointments despite the court order. I am a no on how I will vote, and will risk contempt charges and fines or jail to defend democracy, Barrett wrote. I don't know how solid she is here, but that sounds interesting. It is unclear what consequences Barrett and Ivory will face for defying the court's order. Last week, Fulton Republicans, this is now 2 weeks ago, Fulton Republicans asked the court to hold the board in contempt for refusing to appoint Adams and Frazier. A state court judge had reserved his ruling on the GOPS motion pending today's meeting. So there was a little bit. At least one judge said, I'll wait. A petition for contempt of Judge Emerson's order should be filed immediately, and I hope the judge will consider not only a fine but jail time for the unlawful defiance of a lawful court order, Josh McCoon, chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, wrote on Twitter. In a statement, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger called the board's vote. Where's Brad Raffensperger come down on this? Don't forget, he's a Republican. He's always been a Republican. He calls the board's vote reckless and said they must follow the court order, but stopped short of calling for a fine or jail time. The actions of the commissioners undermine trust in government, Raffensperger said. I call on the Fulton Commission to follow the rule of law and appoint all bipartisan appointees, not just the ones they prefer. This is a red alert moment for democracy in Georgia, said Fair Fight CEO Lauren Grow-Wargo. I'm trying my best to pronounce the names here. Unelected Republican Party operatives are trying to dictate how elected Fulton County commissioners vote, exploiting contradictions in state law and municipal code to seat extremist activists. Adams and Frazier are bad faith actors, and if appointed, we expect they will undermine and try to break the very election system they're supposed to uphold and improve. What happens here today will echo nationwide. And it's true. You are talking about appointing people who, no doubt share the view that, for instance, January 6th was a patriotic act and the people involved in it are heroes, not criminals. Same thing with what Tina Peters has been up to in Colorado, i.e. right now, serving her sentence on state charges that she tampered with election equipment under her control, and yet Trump trying to spring her from jail. I mean, there's no shortage of evidence that the Republicans from top to bottom are seeking to pack these official bodies with people who are bad faith actors. It's just really unfortunate that there's, unfortunately, one side in this clash, represented mostly by Democratic leadership and elected officials, still believe that it makes them look bad or makes them look like they're in the wrong if they don't follow the normal rule of law, which, again, normally would be the case if both parties were in fact following the rule of law. But one has dedicated itself to undermining and flouting the rule of law at every turn. And you have to wonder whether or not that's the sort of fire you'll need to fight fire with. They're trying it in Fulton County, and I don't know if people know about it. But yeah, for people who, some people are bad faith actors themselves, and posting to social media that Dems never XYZ. Why won't any Dems XYZ? And then when Dems XYZ, they either ignore it or maybe they don't hear about it. So we'll try to remedy some of that. But don't forget, there's also every possibility that they are just bad faith actors and they're not people who support Democrats ordinarily anyway. Even though they'll say on social media, as a lifelong Democrat, I am angry about this. Well, they're actually a lifelong bot, perhaps, or lifelong Republican who knows that you'll listen to them if they say lifelong Democrat. But anyway, to the extent that we can bring this to your attention and have it impact your thoughts, so much the better. Adams, who previously served on the board, refused to certify the county's 2024 primary election results, claiming she didn't have access to all the information about the voting process, which is not stuff that you're actually supposed to review and decide necessarily. Just because you feel like it doesn't mean you're entitled to it. But there you go. So one of the people that the Democrats in Fulton County are fighting to keep off of the board is a person who was on there before and showed us exactly what they were made of. I won't certify the county's primary election results, and that's okay because, and remember though, it was an interesting story, right? I think we remember this one, a Republican, this woman, who wouldn't certify the Republican primary results. So, okay, well, it's a Republican challenging Republican primary results. Well, it was just setting the groundwork for whether or not she can get away with refusing to certify general election results or any election results. Well, there's only those two kinds anyway. So, and now here she is apparently being given a chance to do it. So anyway, she said she wouldn't certify, or she refused to vote to certify, mind you, in the face of a court order, one of the same courts here that was ordering compliance in this case, and said when Adams was under the gun and the court was saying, you must do this, she refused to do it, I think. And now that Democrats are availing themselves of the same tactic, that's horrific. But it was heroic when Adams did it. You know how these things go. All right. Now, Adams, has ties to the Cleta Mitchell-led Election Integrity Network and the right-wing Tea Party Patriots. So a good pick, right? Frazier has a long history of election controversy as well. Frazier has challenged nearly 10,000 voter registrations in Fulton County and claims to have successfully challenged over 25,000. In August of 2024, he filed a lawsuit against the election board, falsely claiming that they failed to properly maintain the county's voter rolls and respond to voter challenges. The lawsuit was voluntarily dismissed a month later, in case you were wondering what happened to it. So these are the nudniks they're trying to put on the Fulton County board, and you can see why people are fighting tooth and nail against it. When elected officials obstruct the law and openly defy a judge's lawful order, accountability at this point is essential, the Fulton County COP posted on Twitter minutes after the board's vote to block Adams and Frazier's appointment, tagging the U.S. Department of Justice in their post. I'm sure they're looking for them to intervene. It's not about partisan politics. It isn't. Well, so says one of the Democratic heroes in this case. It's not about partisan politics. It's about ensuring our Board of Elections are held to the highest level of accountability and that our elections are fair. Mo Ivory, said before she voted to block Adams and Frazier's appointments. They are election deniers, and they are doing everything they can to undermine faith in our elections, Barrett said before casting her vote. So you know what? What can I tell you? They may be right here, defying the court's orders, which, interestingly enough, once again, the Democrats doing the suing, no staying of the orders pending appeal for you. Well, you can't just go around. I understand their sentiment, but you can't just go around defying court orders. Well, the thing is, I'm defying a court's order to install as on the Board of Elections someone who themselves has in the past defied court orders about how to fairly administer elections. What can I do? Think about what's happening here. These two putative commissioners were on the commission before, refused to certify election results that had been, certified as genuine by everybody else, but refused to participate, would not vote to certify the election results, were ordered by a court to do so, refused to do so nonetheless, I guess got booted or their terms ended on the commission, or maybe they're being renewed now. So now they're being sent back to the board, and the rest of the board is saying, these two guys, these two people refused to play by the rules, even when ordered by a court. We're not putting them on this board. They find a court to say, you have to put them on the board. And the Democrats say, fine, you know what? I noticed what happened to these two idiots. When they defied court orders, they got reappointed. So now we're going to defy court orders. What? How dare you? Well, interesting. I don't know. Maybe we should be circulating and celebrating the names of Mo Ivory and who's the other one? Barrett. Might as well get it right here. Dana Barrett, Mo Ivory. There you have it. Fulton County, Georgia. Send them your support. There's another story, one or two in here, but I guess we're just about out of time to bring them to you. But this is going to be a longer read, so I won't be jumping over to this one. But I can tease it for tomorrow. But a lot more machinations around the country. And I guess another example of things happening behind the scenes that people who are or have a vested interest for whatever reason in insisting that Democrats never do this or that. And no Democrats are fighting. Apparently they are. Chris Armitage has a Substack article about a more secretive and necessarily secretive, I think, effort among Democratic state attorneys general, and what they have in mind, and that they have been having planning and strategy sessions for finding opportunities and strategies for resisting the Trump administration assault on the rule of law state by state. And this has been happening without the knowledge of the very savvy people on social media who insist that Democrats are doing nothing. Okay, well, I think it would be normally pretty easy to convince people who are, in fact, genuinely Democrats or Democratic leaning that it might be the case that blanket statements aren't always the wisest, and that there might be instances in which they are unaware of what's actually going on. So for those people, we offer these things. Now, for the bad faith actors, we just offer this information for those of you who are good faith actors in order to be able to recognize when you're dealing with a bad faith actor on the purportedly from the Democratic side. Okay, time for us to exit for the day and hand things over to Justice Putnam for the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I'll give you a little preview of what he's got in tap for you. And instead of trying to sneak in one more weird story, I just want to send out some shout-outs and thank yous to folks who are taking advantage of a new opportunity offered by, who's doing it now? Is it Patreon? Yes, offering the ability to sign up for an entire year's subscription, an annual subscription at a discounted rate, even for our new and fun tiers that we set up for everybody to do this monthly. Want to do it annually? You can.
Networksradio.com.
And two of our friends have done so.
Listening to Kagro in the morning with David Waldman.
That's right. Tom Watson, who had just re-upped with us, converted to an annual membership, as did Jay Dowse. So if you're looking around and you're interested in finding out about it, go over to Patreon, patreon.com/KagroX, and see what the new options are. Oh gosh, I haven't given you a preview. Just stay tuned for Justice next.